Good day, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the Developer Day at Spotify. And I hope you are as excited as I am for the Web API updates. We envision a cultural platform where professional creators can break free of their medium's constraints, and where everyone can enjoy an immersive artistic experience that enables us to empathize with each other and to feel part of the greater whole. That's our mission. It's to unlock the potential of human creativity by giving million creative artists the opportunity to live off their art, and billions of fans the opportunity to enjoy and be inspired by it. And to all of our partners, including our incredible Web API community, we want you to understand what this mission means to us, how we make decisions, and why. It's been over 6 years since the new Web API and mobile SDKs were released. Before that, we had tools, and the tools were very limited. For example, we provided the metadata API that allowed third-party developers to search and look up tracks, albums, and artists in the Spotify catalog. However, there was no way for third-party developers to retrieve information from other entities, such as playlists or user-owned data. We had a variety of tools that look and feel different, and our developer website's documentation was severely lacking. As you might expect, this made it difficult for developers and partners to integrate with our tools. When you think about our vision of unlocking human creativity, what does it mean? And how can we get there? How about making it easy to create the best Spotify experience for any device or product? And to achieve that, we have to reduce complexity. We need to make it easy to create an integration with our platform. The Web API is one of the tools we developed especially to realize this vision. Nowadays, we provide a set of tools that, when combined, enable our community to create amazing experiences for our users. And finally, artists will be able to reach consumers through a variety of devices and products. So I'm looking forward to telling you more about the Web API. And here is me again. I've been with Spotify for over 4 years. And for the last 2 years, I've been a part of the incredible team that operates and maintains the Web API. I'm a typical engineer who isn't always the first to lift their hands for doing presentations. However, when Josh approached me about giving a talk about the new API updates, I was actually excited because this is a product that I work with every day. So the Web API is a collection of smaller APIs, each of which, as you can see, maps perfectly to real-world concepts, making it easy for our developers to understand how to use them. Another important message we hope to convey through this API structure is to make it easy to provide composable value. We want to enable developers to start with small building blocks and gradually add features and functionality intuitively. I will not go into the details of each of these APIs. Most of the APIs that you see here have already existed for a long time. So I invite you, if this is your first time seeing these APIs, to visit our developer.spotify.com platform website and read more about the functionality and how they can be used. But I am going to talk about the podcasts API. So the Spotify platform holds a rich catalog of more than 2.2 million podcast titles. We have seen how many amazing experiences we enabled our developers to build with the music-related APIs, and how that in turn helps artists reach end users through different devices and products. We first introduced podcast functionality in March of last year, and we have received positive feedback from our community since then. Podcast functionality introduces two new entity types. There is the episodes and shows. These entities, like the Tracks API, have unique identifiers, like IDs. And a show object is typically composed of one to many episodes. The episode object, as you can see with me here, includes metadata information, such as like preview URL, which is like a 30-second preview of the episode that typically integrations use to tease users for specific content. The episode object contains information about episode explicitness. Does it contain explicit content, for example? There is the resume point also, which is a special one. It's probably a new thing you see here. It's basically this resume point tells you or shows you where the user most recent position in the episode is. So this list of attributes is not exhaustive. I only chose a few of the most important ones to highlight here. But for the exhaustive list, please visit our developer.spotify.com. So then we have the show object. And again, this is not an inclusive list, but you get the show object and also you get like the episodes that are within this show. You get the languages used in the show, whether or not the show contains explicit content, and you also can get the cover art of the show, etc. The podcast feature is provided by a number of our APIs, actually, each of which provides you with a significant but simple building block to inspire creativity. The episodes and shows API, for example, will provide endpoints that will allow integrations to retrieve metadata for episodes and shows. The playlist API, the one you see to the right, provides endpoints that allow integrations to retrieve episode metadata for a specific playlist or playlists. You can also add, remove, reorder episodes within a playlist. The search API allows you to include episode information in the search results, while the player API, the one that Josh spoke about earlier, includes episodes in the endpoint for determining what the user is currently playing. Episodes are also included in our Browse API results for new releases. This is just a high-level overview, of course. For more details, you can check our documentations. So the podcast API, as I mentioned earlier, was launched last year. And last month, we updated it. We enriched it with new offerings. So what is new? So we released new updates for our existing library API, which allows you to add, remove, and update and delete shows and albums and tracks. We also added new endpoints, as I said last month, to support the same operations, but for episodes. As you can see, we've added 4 new endpoints that allow integrations to get the user's saved episodes. You can also check if the episode have been saved into the user's library. You can remove an episode from a user's library, and you can save episodes to the user's library. So let's have a closer look. And here I picked 2 endpoints to show you more. So this one is the save episodes for current user. As you can see here, the endpoint is comparable to when you click, for example, the like button on the episode mobile app, for example. It will result in the episodes being saved to your library. This endpoint takes episode IDs as input parameters and returns a 200 success response code. A 200 response code on success. Then there is this endpoint, which gets the current user's saved episodes. This endpoint, as the name entails, returns the list of the episodes of the current user. As you can see, we'll need to pass pagination parameters, and as a result, you would get episodes, but they will be wrapped in a pagination object as well. Two more important pieces of information to add here is that these endpoints are now in beta state currently. And so we have a limitation of the number of episodes one can fetch, which is around 2,000 episodes. We are actively working towards making that limitation go away soon. So now that I hope you have a better understanding and overview of the various features available through the API as of today, I thought I'd walk you through the process of creating an integration. So I'd like to divide this into 5 important steps: the account setup, the app registration, authorization flow, and integration. And I will talk a little bit about some examples of doing integrations. So the most basic step here is to create an account. So all you have to do is create a Spotify account, which can be premium or free. And this account will be used in the next step when you register a new application, or let's call it integration. We'd like you to register your potential app even before you begin building the app. And you'll use your account to not only connect the integration to you as an owner, but also to provide you with some insights once the app begins receiving traffic. So as you can see here on the slide, it's very simple form to fill up, and then you're set to go. As you can see, you will receive 2 important pieces of information as a result, which you should keep because you will need them in the authorization flow. It's the client ID and the secret. And you can see these at all times when you log into your dashboard at the developer.spotify.com website. So then, do you remember there was the next step, which was the authorization flow? So first of all, why do we need authorization? You needed to be able to fetch data from Spotify and also to have the end user approve access for your application to their Spotify data and features. Spotify can authorize your app in 2 ways: app authorization and user authorization. I won't go into the details of the app authorization. I believe there is quite a lot of documentation about it already. For this quick guide, we'll use user authorization because we'll be trying to access podcast information for the current user. What did they save in their episodes library? And they must authorize your app to access their data. One thing to keep in mind is that we strive to protect user data privacy. So we always want to make sure that users are aware and in control of who has access to their personal information, of course. And that we are as explicit as possible in describing the type of access the integration will have. And you will see that later on in some screenshots. So how exactly does this work? Your app generates a call to the Spotify account service. So there's a different endpoint that your application needs to generate a call to. It's called the account service endpoint. It's what you see on the left-hand side, accounts.spotify.com/authorize. And then your app generates the call to this Spotify account service with specific scopes. So I think you have seen scopes earlier with Josh's session about the player API. So different scopes are required to access different or specific information on behalf of the user. For example, for the library episodes endpoints, your app must request authorization for the scopes shown on the slide. User library read to basically read all the users' saved episodes. User library modify to save and delete. Assume the app you're creating is a website with one button. And when the user clicks it, they should get a list of episodes that's saved in their library. Your website should then request this data from the Web API. This data is user-specific and is protected, as I mentioned before, by a set of privileges known as scopes, which your website must obtain authorization for. So the user clicks the button. If the app is already authorized, then you will just get the data straight ahead. If not, then the app issues a call that looks like the call in the slide. So as you can see there is a URL with the client ID that identifies your application. Remember from the slide where we created the application. Then you need to specify a response type, which tells the account service which authorization flow you will go for. The redirect URL is where the account service should send the code back to. And then the scopes that holds information about the permissions. And then a state, which is in an optional field, which provides protection against attacks. This is more like WAT2 specification. So what happens after this call is initiated? The user is presented with a page that explains the type of access they will be authorizing. And I believe you have seen also this in the previous slides. Then the user is redirected back to the callback URL. So this callback URL will also contain query strings. It will contain the code, authorization code, and the state value that was set in the previous request. The next step is that your application needs to request access to an access token, or needs to get an access token basically, and the refresh token. And this time it will be a slightly different URL. So it will be the accounts.spotify.com again, but /API/token, as you can see here in the slides. So this request should be sending information about the client ID and the client secret. So these two can be sent as request parameters, and you will also send information about the grant type, which is like the authorization code or the name of the authorization flow you're using. Then you will send the code that you got previously and the redirect URI. At this point, if everything has been done correctly, your app will get back an access token, a token type, the scopes that you have granted, that you have been granted, information about for how long the access token will be valid, so it will be the field expire in, and a refresh token, which you can use later on to get a new access token. Now that we got the access token, we can use it to issue calls to the Web API. As you can see, for example, this is how you would issue a call to the Me episodes endpoint to get the episodes for the current saved for the current user. It's a lot of details here, but we got you covered because the authorization flows, all of them, even the newest one, is thoroughly documented in our developer website. So don't forget to check them out there. There are some examples here. And they should help you kind of connect the dots and recall what we spoke about earlier. So this example was created with Node.js. This code should help you kind of see how things would look like in your integration. So the first step is on the left-hand side, and it's numbered 1, if you can see the small number there. And then you make a call to the authorization endpoint as shown in the screenshot, of course, and you can see there's the client ID, there's the scopes, redirect URI, and the state. And then in the screenshot number 2, you can see an example code for retrieving query parameters that were returned to your callback URI in order to issue another request that requests the access token, basically. And then on the bottom left, there is the screenshot number 3. And it shows an example of code for making a call to getting the current user's episodes using the library API. Of course, here I forgot to mention to show the pagination parameters actually that you will need to send as well. So what I explained previously in code examples would work in this way. You would typically have a form from where your users can log in. The user will then be redirected to this page on the account service. As you can see, and you have seen this before in Josh's session. So the user here will be able to see the type of access that this application will get. So what will they authorize the application to get? Notice here the access for view your activity on Spotify, which is the description of scopes we use for accessing library content, user library content. Then you would receive data that you can then display in which way you please. As you can see here, a very basic presentation. I'm not a front-end developer, obviously, but I tried to do something very basic here to just get like the episode cover, episode title, description, release date. And there's a very similar basic tutorial actually in our website. So check it out. You can use it as a get starting kind of thing. So in a real setup also, you'd want to have some kind of client code, right? Which is the code that knows how to talk to the web API. I would recommend using an existing wrapper. For example, the Spotify web API node wrapper that you see here. It will take care of a lot of things on your behalf. This wrapper runs on Node.js, but similar to this one, there is a lot of others already created by the community with different languages. So using a wrapper like this one makes it then way easier to call the API and get to the point of the time where you want to actually start writing or building something. For instance, the wrapper already offers implementations for web API clients that covers a wide range of endpoints. It doesn't yet support library episode, for example, anyways, in a real case scenario, you'd want to support promises also, and you'd want to use a wrapper for sure. So if it would have supported episodes, I've just played with it a little bit. And it seems like it's really cool because it's really easy to add a new episode endpoint. So for example, here you can see on the left-hand side the function to get my saved episodes. And once the function is implemented, you can then use it to get the user saved episodes. Keep in mind that this example is simplified, as you would also need to take care of like fetching all the episodes from a pagination object, for example, depending on your use case. And for inspiration, we picked this app for, it's called Gutter Podcast, which integrates music with podcast. This one uses Spotify Web Playback SDK and the Web API. I haven't spoken about the Spotify Playback SDK, but it's another tool that we offer and that can be used in combination with the Web API. And it basically allows you to create a new player in Spotify Connect. And Spotify Connect is also another tool which kind of turns your Spotify API into a remote control. So for mobile users, if you have Spotify mobile app on your mobile app, then you can, when you're playing a track or an episode, you can see like a small icon in the on the track banner where it shows like multiple devices. If you click on that one, you will see like all the devices that are connected to your Spotify account. That's how you can kind of get an idea of what Connect is. A couple of things to keep in mind when developing integrations. We try to provide a predictable API model and aim to provide a consistent interface. So take advantage of that predictability and adhere to graceful changes that might happen. For example, here you can see the track restriction object has this reason field. So basically, if the track is, we can tell you through the API if the track is playable or not based on the parameters that you provide. Or we can also, if the track is not playable for a specific reason, like a market, it's not available for the market, or it's not available for that specific product, you will get a reason with that value. But as you can see, this can be, there can be more values, new values added. So when you are designing, when you are building your integrations, keep this type of changes in mind so that your apps don't break when we add a new value. Another thing just to re-highlight here is use community contributions. There are several libraries that we don't necessarily support, but that will handle a large portion of the overhead for you. For example, the Authorization Flow, there are libraries that wrap the API that will take care of encoding requests, parsing responses, possibly some error handling. Yeah. So with this information in hand, I hope you have a better understanding and overview of what you can do with the API. And well, as I hope I stimulated your curiosity a little bit. More changes and updates to the podcast APIs are on the way. And we can't wait to see the fantastic integrations you'll be creating, hopefully with the help of our platform and tools. And we have left some minutes opening for questions. So if you have any questions around the new API behavior, please post them on the Q&A panel, and I will try to answer them to the best of my knowledge. So I have seen some questions earlier that were related to the API, so I will start with those. So there was a question, is there a way to get a user's listening history? And if so, how far? And the answer to that question is that yes, there is a way to get the user's listening history, and it's actually in the player API that Josh spoke about earlier. The endpoint is me player / recently played. So check it in the player API. About the limit, don't quote me on that, but I think the limit is around 50. There was also another question related to the API that I've seen earlier. Why some tracks previews are missing. And the answer to that is that track previews can be missing for restriction reasons. For example, if the content of the track is explicit and the user trying to play the preview has either their explicit lock on or their explicit filter on, the preview will be missing for them. And this behavior can be different by markets, and it's usually very dependent on legal reasons. There's another question here that came up earlier. Are you going to add these missing endpoints? The first one, get a user's followers, get a playlist's followers, determine whether a user follows me. So I cannot speak to the first ones. The first two endpoints, get the user's followers. Like I don't know about any plans. But for the third endpoint, there is, I believe there is an endpoint for that. I'm trying to remember which API is that, but the endpoint is following contains, and you can tell if the user is following you with that endpoint. Yeah, I think I cannot personally answer, or these questions, they require a little bit more thinking. So I encourage you to use our developer community platform to ask those questions, and we'll try hard to answer them, our best to answer them.
Great, fantastic, Ibtisam. Thank you so much for that really inspiring talk about the web API. You've definitely given me lots of ideas for my own coding, and I'm really excited about the Your Episodes API that you mentioned. I definitely going to use that in some of my apps. So yeah, that brings us to the end of Developer Day. I want to thank everyone for tuning in and joining us at this, one of our first virtual events in a long time. If the poll is correct, it looks like there were folks here from every continent, which is amazing. And as Ole mentioned, we're going to do a blog post after the event to follow up with content from today's sessions and video so that you can rewatch any content that you missed or wanted to watch again. And after this session, we do have office hours for those of you who registered for office hours. You should have received an email with more information about the Zoom event and the time of your office hour if you do have one this evening. So we're really looking forward to chatting with those of you who are in office hours after this. And for everyone else, I want to say, again, thank you for coming out. And we hope to see you again soon at another event like this one, either virtual or in person in the future. So have a great rest of your day or a great evening ahead, and take care.